Welcome to the empowering world of the Ladies Who Leap podcast, where brave souls share their remarkable journeys of venturing beyond their comfort zones to craft lives filled with passion and purpose. What happens when life forces you to slow down and you finally choose yourself? Well, Moyra Gorski, a retired RN, wellness expert, podcaster, entrepreneur, and breast cancer survivor, has dedicated her life to helping women find out what to do and live a happier, more joyful, and more purposeful life. Enjoy the podcast. Hi, welcome to Ladies Who Leap. Today, my guest is Moyra Gorski. She's a podcaster, a wellness expert, and a passionate entrepreneur dedicated to helping women live vibrant, healthy, and purposeful lives. A retired RN and breast cancer survivor, she inspires others to take charge of their health and find joy through simple, sustainable habits. As the host of Your Journey to Joy podcast and a longtime wellness advocate, Moyra empowers women through education, community, and natural solutions for mind, body, and spirit. She's a resident of Geneva, Illinois. She finds joy in ballroom dancing, which is so cool. I love watching you do that. Online, journaling, baking, and time with her family and dog Rudy. Welcome, Moyra.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you today.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me in your podcast. I'm truly honored to be here.
Oh, thank you. So I'd like to start with, where did you get your desire to be in the health and wellness industry and have a love for science? A lot of people, things usually start when they're young. So where did that desire come from?
Yeah, I don't know. And I do remember if I think back from just you saying that, I think back to my upbringing. Now I'm 62, and so this dates me. We used to watch The Love Boat and those shows, but we also watched that emergency show. And I don't know what day it was on, and that doesn't really matter, but it was like an ER, whatever, medical show way back then. And I was very intrigued by that. Sometimes, honestly, I it upset my stomach, or I felt like stressed with it when I was watching it, but I was always intrigued and I always loved watching it. So I think something sparked in me that then my parents were not in the medical field, and honestly I have two older sisters and a younger brother, and nobody went into the medical field. And I grew up feeling like I was very different than my siblings, which I in fact am. But I grew up thinking that there was something wrong with me because I was different in that I think I was the one that wanted to go have fun, but have the conversations. I was curious. I just had this a little bit livelier spirit, if you will, than my siblings, who turned out to be like very analytical. So they went into finance and risk management and computer programming. And even though my brother went into photography, which is very creative, he also now is in bookkeeping. So they're all like these, as I call them, they're the columns and rows people. And I'm not. Like, I want to, again, this was younger. And so now I love to have these deep conversations and go for long walks with people. And let's talk about all of the things like that we've talked about. And I think I really have always had that, like, I wanted to be that problem solver, and let's talk about it. Let's be curious. And I believe that nurses, people in the medical field, even in wellness, we want to help people solve their problems, if you will. So I think when I again think back to that, again, I did feel like I was very different, but as I've learned about that, those are the differences that make me unique and have again led me to that curiosity of, again, I loved science and kind of all of the details of that. I love music. I grew up playing classical piano since I was 5. And that's what I went to college to study, kind of like music and science. Like, what am I going to do with that? And I didn't know until halfway through college. And they were starting a nursing program, like a joint nursing program with another liberal arts college. I went to Hope College, and they were starting it with Calvin College. And so that intrigued me because I was like, I don't want to sit in a lab all day. I knew I wanted to be around people, and again, just lively interaction and things like that. And so that nursing, the fact that I could be around other people and be helping other people, that intrigued me. And so I moved into that nursing track, if you will. and finished my bachelor's in nursing.
And you never really look back. I can tell that from a child, you wanted to help others and you enjoyed the, I don't know, almost like the research, the unknown, the problem solving, right? That was
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
embedded in you. And I'm sure that your
Yeah.
patients benefited from that because if that's the case, you were extremely curious. So you were probably really looking and listening to them in a way that they would appreciate as a nurse. Listening to what's going on in their body and how they feel is really important, I would imagine.
Sure. Yeah. And I did an internship or May term, January term, something like that, that they called it, and in rehab nursing. And so rehab meaning paraplegics, quadriplegics, strokes, and things like that. So that type of rehab. And so that's why I was like, oh, this is what I want to do when I graduate. So I did get a job at Rehab Institute of Chicago, which is now Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, but really one of the well-renowned rehab hospitals in the area and even in the United States. And that's what I worked with. I worked with patients that were paraplegics, quadriplegics for whatever reason. There was a stroke and I think chronic pain a little bit on my floor too. So it was interesting because now that I look back on what I get to do now is I help people create a new normal, like a better normal. And in rehab nursing, it was like you had to help them like accept this new normal, but it was really oftentimes less than what they were used to. These, and it really helped me realize that life can change in just a second. I had a patient that was outside with some friends on his deck and he fell off. He tripped down the stairs and the way he fell, he was a quadriplegic for the rest of his life.
Wow.
A young guy who was a mechanic, my son's a mechanic in the military now, mechanic, and he was under a lift with a car and the lift failed and fell. And he was a quadriplegic for the rest of his life, or a paraplegic, regardless. He was paralyzed. So things can happen in such a quick instant. And again, I was helping them accept this new normal and adjust to that with different things that they had to do. If they had to learn to use a wheelchair or transfer to their bed or have a bowel program that was different than ours and those kind of things. So it was a different normal. And then as I've gotten into this wellness space, it's exciting because again, that's this acceptance piece that isn't always nice and fun, and all of that.
And
I had a
easy.
gal
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
easy. Yeah. I had a gal.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't always remember things, but there's a few patients that I remember and the things that they said to me. Again, I used to, and hopefully this is okay for your audience, but I used to work in the after the evening, so 3 to 11s. And so we did bowel programs. We would give them a medication to help them with their elimination, or we had to do other things, suppositories and whatnot. But I remember going and giving some, I don't know, milk of magnesia, Metamucil, something to somebody who she just took it and she just downed it so fast. And she was a paraplegic. She had tried to kill herself with a shotgun and she did not succeed. And she had a bullet lodged in her spine and she was a paraplegic. And so as I was coming through and I gave her that, and again, she just took it, threw it down like a shot. I said, wow, I don't know how you can stand that. Just an instinct of what I said. And she looked at me and she said, at least you can stand. I was like, okay.
Oh, she put
So,
you, yeah, she put a little bit of reality check and put you in your place.
yeah.
And it is true, though, that difficult periods in our lives lead to the most growth. You were seeing people at some very difficult times, but you've had some things that
Mhm.
actually shaped and became part of your experience of life and shaped who you are. I'm trying to see if I can put this in any kind of order because I know you've had a journey with your daughter, you've had your own cancer journey, and you've also had another difficult period with your son. I'm not sure what came in certain orders, but I know that changed your thinking about life and what you wanted to do and stuff. What would you like to start with if you could talk to those experiences and how they shaped you?
Yeah, I think I'll start with my son. And then that was my real introduction to, again, looking at things differently in regards to health. My son, who just was visiting this weekend, went home to Michigan. He's 30. But he was always that. I have 4 children, and he was always the sick kid. If anybody was going to be sick, he was going to be the one with the runny nose and the sneezing and the snuffling and all that stuff. And just bothersome as a mom. But I again, just doing all the things, trying to figure things out, and figured he had some allergies and he would get sick throughout the year at different times. And a girl that I was getting to be friends with, I had decided, my husband and I decided that I would put my career aside. I was in nursing and then in medical sales throughout my 30s or my 20s. And then when we got married at our late 20s and started to have children, decided that I would put that career aside and stay at home and raise the family. So I was at home and becoming a suburban mom and going to the health club and the pool and the parks and things like that. And a girl that I was getting to know at the health club, because we took the same class, spin classes together, whatever, she started to challenge me with some things as I shared my frustrations and said, maybe you might want to try. What do you clean your house with? Do you take any vitamins? What do you feed him? I'm like, I don't know how that has to do with him getting sick all the time. But she started to challenge me and say, maybe you might want to change your laundry detergent, or maybe you might want to see this chiropractor that I see that does this like muscle testing stuff. I mean, I was a medically trained nurse. I was like, this kind of sounds really off the wall. And this is 25 years ago. So
Real
today's a little bit
woo
more
for
accepted,
that
but that was,
period. Yeah, a lot of
yeah.
woo woo going on.
But I was a concerned mom with, okay, maybe this could help. And so I started to make some of those changes that she recommended. And I went to that chiropractor, and actually his soccer coach told me about a homeopath that he had gone to that really helped him with his allergies. So I was like, it's worth a try. See if I can help my son feel better and be a little bit more vibrant, and it worked. I started to see those changes, and his health started to trend upwards. It was really his energy. I said to him after a while at dinner when we were eating, I said, do you think all those pills and that stuff that we're doing is helping? And he said, yeah, it helps me keep my eyes open during the day. Wow. So that was really a turning point for me to be like, okay, maybe there is something different than just here's a medication, here's Claritin prophylactically every day, which is what his pediatrician said to give my son. I was like, that doesn't really make sense. Like he doesn't need it all the time. And so that was really, again, a turning point. It was really a start of doing that kind of investigating and being curious again to say, what does this really mean? And how do the things that are around me and that I put on myself and that we put in ourselves, how does that affect us? And so again, that was the start of my journey to really learn about wellness and prevention, like this side of things, as opposed to getting over here and saying, okay, we need the medication or we need the Band-Aid. What if we start here and pay attention again to those things that we're eating, the things that we're doing? How are we sleeping? How are we supplementing to fill in the gaps where our diets fall short? Can we remove those things that are those allergens are bothering? So that was my start into that. And I partnered with a company that my friend introduced me to that had those wellness products. The wellness products that, again, I learned that it was an industry, and it still is a very unregulated industry, but I wanted that science behind it. And so this company that I've been partnered with for that long is one of the only companies in the direct selling space that does that much research. And that's what really, as I was seeing the changes in my son's health, and then I was starting to use the products, and really our whole family were feeling better. I felt better as I started to learn that these were products that were tested and studied and that were safe that I could use. And then this idea that I would share it with someone else and to help someone else, although that's what I love to do, I was like, wait a minute, I don't really know how to, that would me having a business. I don't really know what that is. I was a nurse, but my girlfriend said we're just sharing with other people what's worked for us and we're helping them. So that felt okay. So I slowly moved into that idea of having my own wellness business because I just wanted to share with other people that I was learning because these things were helping. My son went on to play competitive hockey and club level hockey for his whole school and through college. His health changed tremendously as well as mine. So that was one turning point, if you will, this start into helping people with their feeling better. And I've been doing that for 25 years now.
Yeah, leaping into your own business when entrepreneurship maybe not had been on your card, your play card when you were younger or even thinking about it, but you always had that bug to be able to help other people. And I don't know if your cancer journey, which meant now you had some tools and you would actually help yourself go through that journey. And then also with your daughter, there was another journey that you had to go through. And It's interesting. I wrote down here in my notes, there was a leap that you did in trusting a company that discovered healthy living. So you took a leap just in trusting this company, understanding first trying it out and using it and doing your own testing, right? And then finding, okay, this really did something for me. And then leaping into being an entrepreneur. That's a big leap.
Yeah, when I look back, I really never expected that this is what I'd be doing, but I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I took that leap and I always tell people, the people that I mentor on my team and others that are considering having their own business, there are people that will tell you and give you hints like, we believe in you. And I had plenty of people telling me that this is something you'd be good at. This would be helpful. And so they were encouraging me. And sometimes we have to grab onto them and their beliefs in us as before we really truly believe that this is something that we should be doing in regards to leaping. And you mentioned my daughter a couple of times, and I'd like to go there and then to my cancer journey. But my daughter, so I have two sons and a daughter, and my daughter is now 27. And but when she was in high school, she started to struggle with an eating disorder and some really strong mental health challenges. Now, I went through a bit of an eating disorder in my college years, and I felt like I could really help her, which I could in some regards because I had some perspective there. But what I learned through that almost 9 year journey that she went through, that was one of the most difficult journeys that I've ever been through and our family has ever been through, in that she went away to treatment numerous times. I had to give up. I had to trust and believe in those people as I sent her away. Arguably, like one of the most difficult decisions my husband and I could make, just that first time that she went away. But you know what I learned through that is that I had to take care of myself. We all have heard that whole oxygen mask on first. You get on the airplane, you hear that thing, and you tune it out. But it was so true. I was trying so desperately to help my daughter. And I was going down. My health was starting to decline. And I was stressed. My adrenals were getting all wonky. We talked about menopause before with our group. My menopause symptoms were getting totally out of whack. But it was so much stress and just fatigue and worry and things like that. And a couple of friends said, you've got to start taking care of yourself. And again, we're trying to help. I think nurses are very notorious for helping everybody and not helping themselves. And so I learned at that time that I needed to trust those people that were caring for my daughter and find the best care that we could and then leave it up to her if she wanted to choose recovery and do all of that. But what I could do is take care of me. And I needed to make sure that I was filling my cup up. Again, we've heard all these things, but it became my story that I needed to figure out how I could fill my cup up full and overflowing because I had to help myself first. And if I was planning to help anybody, be it my daughter, my teammates, my clients, I needed to make sure that I was filled up first. And so that meant for me, I went away on a couple of retreats. I learned about meditation and about sitting, about being quiet and about yoga. And I'm not that kind of person, or I wasn't back then. It was just like, but I needed to do that, slow myself down, create a morning routine. I didn't know what a morning routine was, but that has become such a huge part of what I do because it gives to me before I start giving to others. And so I really learned that. And I also learned about boundaries. I thought that boundaries, like I have 4 children, I thought boundaries was about like curfew and when you should be home. And so you don't get grounded and all that stuff. But boundaries is so different than that. Boundaries is how we teach other people to treat us. Setting those boundaries of, guess what? Even if it's just that's not acceptable, the way that you're talking to me, or I need some time to myself. So I'm going to go for a walk or I'm going to go take a bath. And unless somebody's bleeding, do not open the door. Those kind of things, like you're putting those boundaries around yourself because it's self-protection. And so that was a big wake up call, if you will. But I really learned that through my daughter's journey. And I'm happy to report our daughter lives with us here in Geneva and is doing so tremendously well in her life. And so proud of her for everything that she's gone through. And our relationship is different now. We've both learned a lot through that journey. And it's lovely to have that relationship back, if you will. But it's because we both took care of ourselves during that time. And then things were going well. And I think that God or whatever power you believe in, sometimes we don't listen enough to those messages, if you will. And I remember the beginning of what was it, 2023, what was the word of my year? The word of the year was focus. This is the beginning of the year that we're talking about this. So I had chosen focus as my word because I was so busy and I had networked so much and my business was growing and I knew so many people, but I was like, I focus because am I really reaching my goals? Like I was really having this like, I think I need to focus on, I'm just like, sometimes I can be a shiny penny. Oh, look at that. Let's do that. When I just was doing. So I'm like, I got to focus. I got to really say no to some things. And so I was working on that. And then my 60th birthday came and I was like, maybe I'll go to the doctor. I don't often go to the doctor because I'm pretty well.
Okay, so it's your 60th birthday. You decide to go to the doctor. Had you not been to the doctor in a while? You were just feeling so good. You were living healthy. Things were going
Yeah, I
well.
hadn't, yeah, things were going well. I didn't have any major illnesses that I felt like I needed. And although we should get a checkup every year, I hadn't been in a few years. And when I really reflect back, I had some mammograms that they wanted me to come back for further imaging. And I actually had a couple of biopsies, but they didn't lead to anything. There was just whatever. They're like, no, there's really nothing there. So nothing to worry about. I'm so thankful for that. And so it'd been a couple of years. So I was like, I'm 60, I'll go there. And there are things that we should be doing, right? Be it mammograms, we could talk later about that. But bone density and just different things as we age, right? We should have blood work and things like that. And so she recommended a mammogram, and I said, sure, let's do that. And so did a mammogram and figured that would just be just fine. But they called me back and did some other further imaging and they recommended a biopsy. And I'll never forget. Often women, when we go through, I think any time when we go through a diagnosis, it's hard to forget that day that we got a diagnosis or the
Yeah,
things that happen.
yeah. And it was
Um,
funny because I was 60 also when I got the call. So,
yeah.
yeah, we're pretty much in alignment. Yeah.
When I'm in there getting an ultrasound by a tech and she's doing the measuring and I'm a nurse, I'm looking at the screen, I'm like, you can just tell. I said, so that's it. And as she's measuring this area, and she said, yeah, they're not supposed to say much, but they're like, I'm going to go get the surgeon or radiologist. I don't know. But I could see it. I was like, there is a mass there. It was, again, nothing that I ever expected. And it was early, it was small, it was in an area that they could reach it. I chose to have a lumpectomy. And at the end of that year, and I go on to be cancer free. And there's a whole lot that's come along with that too. But it was this wake up call, another wake up call to be like, I think I'm doing everything right. I'm the expert that people come to live well. And I'm an example in the community of how to be. But it was also this again, I think it was God saying, okay, you need to slow down a little bit more. You need to pay attention. And for me, my journey into cancer was really learning about, again, how can I take better care of myself? But I do have that spiritual and woo side of me. And so I looked at some of my spiritual people that I believe that I follow and things like that. And there was talk about forgiveness and letting things go and getting rid of things that don't serve you. And
Yep.
like there was all of those things along with getting rid of the cancer. And that that rocked my world because I knew that I had lived a life of taking care of everybody else and also having high expectations and perhaps being a little bit of a control person and waiting for apologies to come from people that perhaps I didn't think treated me well and things like that. And I took myself away for a couple of days to Michigan for some quiet solitude for a couple of days that a girlfriend let me use her house that she wasn't using. And I just sat with myself and with oracle cards and my journal and prayer and meditation and things like that and just did a deep dive into what is going on and what is this here to teach me. And
Exactly.
those,
Oh my God.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And those were the things that, and I found myself in tears and angry and sad and like all kinds of things, but it was just this, okay. Even, and I had a massage gal come in and give a massage, and she left. She said, "I'm just going to leave because you're done." And she left me a note downstairs and said, "Let go." I didn't, but she could feel that, right? It was just, I needed to let go. I needed to let things go and let go of that control that I was holding on to the steering wheel of life and thinking that I had all the answers. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I needed to just let those things go. And I really, Lisa, had this like epiphany, like, where are a couple of things? Like, where are the cancers in my life? Because it wasn't just this physical cancer, but like, where are those other cancers, the things that are
Yep.
eating away and disease and things like that? And I also said I wanted to live. And so I was willing to do the things that I needed to do to live. And that's been, again, that could be a whole nother, but I looked at, I, I do, I get, there's a couple of books that I read that were so instrumental in my learning. And it's like what I've been talking about for 25 years. Let's look at what's going on around us so that we're not feeling well. There's a book called The Metabolic Approaches to Cancer, and it looks at all of these terrains that are in our body, be it stress, microbiome, nutrition, toxins, sleep, all of these things. I can't remember all of them, but you get the picture. Like there's all these terrains, and something is off in those terrains. And if we improve those terrains, then we improve our health. And so we don't have those incidents of, we can change. It's not the genes, it's the genetics, it's the epigenetics. It's, we can change the way we live in all of these terrains, then we can change the chances of us getting chronic diseases, and cancer being one of them. And that was a huge learning book for me, as well as Radical Remission, which was this beautiful book. You may have read that.
No, but I read Louise Hay and I know about
Right.
her mind and body connection and the work that I do in releasing negative emotions and limiting beliefs and those through the NLP work that I do. And it states in parts of my script with this mental and emotional release breakthrough sessions the particular negative emotions of what they do to your body. And when
Hmm.
you hold anger and when you hold fear and and resentment, it holds inside of you, that can create the illnesses and cancer and heart
Right.
attack. So I think to myself, now that I know the effect that your own mind, which opening up, Moyra, your awareness to this is huge, is thinking and going, okay, who is wrong in my life? Who has been somebody that I have never forgiven? Because forgiveness releases that hold
Hmm.
on you. So important. Going through forgiveness meditations, the Ho'oponopono that comes from the beautiful Hawaiian people. All of that is to release what you're storing, just like you said, in your body, which is a sense of control. When really you don't have control because
Right.
you are holding in all of this stuff and negative energy and negative thoughts, and it's affecting your body. So, really, it isn't a sense of control. And
Right.
it was so great that you went away, read the books, just got away from everyone. That's the self care that people need. It's not just going to the spa one day or anything like that. It's really changing to your daily rituals, your daily routines. It's so important. And a lot of us as women is take care of everybody else. You, especially as an RN coming
Mm-hmm.
from that background, you did not put your mask on first. You kept helping other people instead of actually helping yourself first. And then I can only imagine once you did that, how your life changed. We'll be right back. If you feel stuck in doubt, fear, or low confidence, there's a way forward. I'm Lisa Andria, Emotional Transformation Specialist with Ladies Who Leap Coaching. I can guide you to clear the emotional patterns holding you back so you can trust yourself again, feel confident in relationships, and step into a life of clarity and purpose. Visit ladieswholeap.com and click on the Let's Connect button to start your leap journey today. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, it's put a whole new perspective on living. And people sometimes will say, you do all those things. You do the sound baths, you do the yoga, you go away to these things. Yeah, because it's necessary. And again, albeit I'll say you should do them too or try them out. But there again, there are these things like as a mom of four children and having a business on my own, I've never been away by myself. But somebody challenged me to do that. Again, people come into your lives for different reasons. And she challenged me to say, why don't you go away? And why don't you go away for a week? I'm like, I can't really go away for a week. Maybe I could. But the 2 days, it worked. Again, I called my friend who had this really cool second house and it worked out fine. But it is those things that, again, we as women and caregivers, we care for so many others, and we need to figure out the best way to care for ourselves. And I do, again, it's our body keeps the score. I opened up that You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and under cancer, it talked about resentment and forgiveness. And it was just like, and I have to say, I mean, I did. I called all night. I went through with a whole breath work meditation weekend, and I came home and I called all my children and I apologized to them. But you know what? And my husband. And what I had to do first is apologize to myself, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's for all of those things that I started to see about that, how I raised my kids, how I showed up, and again, we can't change the past. That's what I said to all of my children and my husband. I said, I can't change the past, but what I can do is tell you that I'm aware of that. And this is the way I'm showing up now, that kind of thing. That was part of, again, a big, deep weekend away of breath work, meditation, just being, like you said, being aware. Awareness is a huge, because when we're aware of things, if we're so busy, I talk with people about this, when you're so busy, you just don't have time to be aware of what's going on. When you slow down, you can be aware of what's going on around you, and then you can make those choices to change or keep it the same type of thing.
Yeah, I always say awareness is the first step to making a transformation. And that's
Mm.
why one of my first steps is this ontological assessment tool that I use. And awareness is the very first thing that you get a grade on. And it really opens up that discussion where people go have the aha moments of, oh, that's right. I do have this perception of other people, of myself, of how I see myself, all these things. But awareness is the first thing and it's key. Now, I
Mm.
know that you will go to some fun stuff because you really got into ballroom dancing. And normally I ask the question of how do you get over those difficult days? I can only imagine that ballroom dancing really has endorphins come out and joy. Is that really a good way for you to get through any difficult times or just keep yourself like prioritized on you?
Yeah, I during the pandemic, I was bored, as I think some of us were. And I challenged by a friend. She said, you should go take a dance lesson or a dance class or something like that. And so I went into a dance studio in the next town over and a Fred Astaire place. And again, I grew up playing classical piano. And so I love a good waltz and tango. I love that music. And these instructors at these studios, they're the best. And I always thought I could dance if I had a good lead. They're the best, right? I've left that studio. I've been to a couple other studios, and now I dance at a studio just 3 minutes up the road. But it has become something that, like, just like my workouts, it's twice a week, dance lessons, individual private lessons with Norbert, and then I'll go to group classes. And it was something that I did that I never, just like my business, I never imagined that 5 years later I would be ballroom dancing and competing and dressing up in all those sparkly dresses and things like
It's
that.
beautiful. You look so beautiful. How fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is fun, and it is that, like, I just forget about the world for an hour. And it also has, because I'm a female, it has taught me to give up leading because I'm a leader. Because remember, all of my instructors is, okay, how about you let me lead and you can follow? I'm like, oh, it's really hard to do
It's
that.
really hard. I've tried it too, and I've been, okay, this is difficult. Yeah, because you're not
Yeah.
in control. You are following. Yeah.
No, but it's something different. I believe that I have lived in this I get things done. I'm successful, I've raised the kids, built a family. Maybe we can call that the masculine, right? And getting into the feminine or whatever, that feminine part of things, I didn't have a lot of time for that. But dance is as a female, that's what it's all about. And it's about expression. And really, dance has become this metaphor for life. What's happening here in my life shows up on the dance floor, that whole leading thing, and trusting somebody that I've got you, and trusting myself. Norbert always says, why do you always second guess yourself? Like, you know what you're doing. Oh, sometimes things in my life that I trusted, all of a sudden cancer came up. I was trusting myself. And so there are those second guessings, and so it shows up the dance floor. But it's this beautiful opportunity I'm so grateful for, that I get to step in there and just do something fun and be active. And yes, forget about the world for and just find that joy in movement, connection, just doing something fun that I never imagined.
And it's a testament to scheduling that time for yourself. Now you have that built in. You look forward to it. You do it twice a week. You do the dance competitions. And I loved seeing those. You did so great. And you can tell that you are just floating around that stage and just the dance floor and having a great time. Which
Mm.
leads me into what I ask all of my guests, which is your favorite quote, mantra, and positive affirmation. And I know you have a really fun one to share. So, what is
Yeah.
that?
Mel Robbins became somebody that I've read and listened to, and I really love her. And something that she always says is that nobody's coming. Nobody's coming to take you to the dance studio. Nobody's coming to get you out of bed. Nobody's coming. And really, when I was in the deep dark of worry and anxiety with my daughter, and that's when I started again to pay attention to me, but I was waiting for the joy to come back. I was waiting for things to change. Come on, things have got to get better. And I learned that again, nobody's coming. I had to go and find the things to do. I had to get up and go to the gym. I had to get up and make myself breakfast. Those kind of things. I had to get up and make those choices because nobody was coming to get me. And I realized that as I started to do those things, the joy did start to come back, but it was up to me. I needed to do that because nobody is knocking on the door saying, come on, let's go. And that's what you talk about so beautifully in your business, on your podcast, in your group, is like helping women be brave enough to leap. But it is that nobody's coming to,
And I mean, you
push
can
out the
ask for
window.
help. There are people that are going to be
Right,
willing to help you, but it has to come from you. Because even
right.
other people helping you, somebody could say, oh, can I help you in some way? You'd be like, no, I'm okay.
How many times do
Until
we say that?
you decide.
Yeah, I learned that I didn't. My mother was this strong, stoic English woman. She didn't ask for help. She did it. And she taught me that. So she taught me to be a strong woman. And I love that about my upbringing. But she didn't teach me very well how to ask for help. And so during those times of going to the retreats and things like that, I learned that I didn't ask for help often, but I can ask for because it was like you said, oh, I'm fine because I got it, right? But it's okay to ask for a little support. That's what I say to people now. You can ask for a little support, right? It doesn't mean that you're incapable. It's
Right.
just you need a little extra support
And
right
it's
now.
not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength that you're
Right.
willing to, people that know what they're doing and are here to help you, like you help people with what you do for a business and the natural foods and things that clean your house with. And I'll ask how people can get a hold of you, and you can put a nice bit of information on that in just a second. But it is knowing that you can ask for help, and it's just to make you grow even more
Mm,
and to allow yourself to learn other ways to be able to be happy, joyful, and love yourself. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yep,
So, how
absolutely.
can people get a hold of you? What is it that we haven't talked about the actual company? And I think a lot of people have heard of the company, but it's very interesting. That is where the company that you decided to work with for what,
Partner
almost
with, yeah.
25 years?
Yeah, I've been partnered with a company called Shackley. We have been around, Shackley's been around for almost 70 years in the direct selling space and started by Dr. Shackley, a chiropractor, some years ago. And again, I love the products and some of their taglines, science blended with nature. And that's really what worked for me, the most natural products, but having science behind them. So what I do is again help people create these healthy habits around staying. And that's again about what we put in ourselves, on ourselves, around ourselves. And I've stayed partnered with this company because I trust their products. There's so many companies out there that again you just don't know, and so these are safe products. But you can find me, I'm very active on social. I do have a website, moyragorski.com, but you can find me on any social platform, the Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm
You're
starting to
doing
get into TikTok.
something new too, because we got together. Moira's very nice to join with another wellness coach to talk about menopause. So,
Menopause,
what
yeah.
is it that you're launching? Yeah.
Yeah, so many women have come up to me and asked about menopause and can you help me with that? And so I've started this Joyful M Circle. I'm all about joy. And so just this, helping to support women. It is a private Facebook group. And so you can reach out to me. I can give you a link to that you can put in show notes that they can hop over to Facebook and ask to be a part of that. But it's a supportive community where we talk about nutrition and again, all of these things, what we can do to help ourselves get through this period of time. It's interesting that not everybody chooses to have a child or can have a child, but every woman goes through menopause. And it's an interesting time, right? That can last for a long time. And there are definitely things that we can do and habits that we can create that can really help us go through that time a little bit more easily. We do have some guest speakers on there, different challenges and things like that. But we've had a couple of months into that. And again, would love to have anybody who's interested in just learning how they can support themselves, just be part of that community, come in and learn from us and to help
learn
get
from
through
each
that.
other. Because if somebody
Right.
has tried something and it worked, like I could not take hormones because of the breast cancer that my mom had. But I did acupuncture for 5 years just so that I could get through all the hot flashes and some other things. So there are other natural ways.
Right.
So sharing that information, this worked for me,
Yep.
and getting that
Yeah, we'll do
information.
Q&As and Zoom calls. We've got one coming up next Monday that again, we're just getting on and we're talking about the new year and what are we going to do to reset some of our habits. So again, it was just another one of those signs of all these women asking about menopause. I'm like, okay, I'll create a group and let's get together and again, like you said, learn from each other. Yeah,
Yeah.
because then we don't feel like we're so alone in this journey of what we're going through.
Moira, thank you for being on the
Thank you for
podcast,
having
the
me.
Ladies Who Leap podcast. And I do want to remind everyone to like, subscribe, comment. And if you have a wonderful leap story, please get a hold of me. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much. This has been lovely. And I
Thank you,
really
Lisa.
feel that you've inspired women to think about themselves and to stop for a moment and become aware of what it is that they are feeling inside and how that's affecting themselves and their bodies and their relationships, and being okay with asking for help.
That's
So
right.
go on that retreat with that coach and that yoga master or whatever, and really embrace it and enjoy it and take it into your whole system. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep, that's very true. Yep, absolutely. We have to take care of ourselves before we can take care of anybody else.
Yeah. So thank you, Moira. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And all the show notes will have all the information of how to get a hold of Moira. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks so much for listening or watching. Please subscribe to the Ladies Who Leap podcast to be notified of new episodes. And I would love to hear from you. Let me know what works, what doesn't, and if you have a story to tell, please reach out. Come join the Leap community at the Ladies Who Leap Club Facebook group. Remember, leaping out of your comfort zone is where the growth happens.